I never believed in ghosts or the paranormal. I grew up in a practical home. Lights off when you leave the room, dishes washed before bed, and no talk of spirits or demons. My mother was a nurse, my father an accountant. Life was meant to be explained, charted, calculated, which is why I still struggle to accept what happened to me in that house. It was early spring when I moved in. I had just gotten a job offer in a quiet, out-of-the-way town where the rent was cheap and the people kept to themselves. I found the listing online, 3-bedroom Victorian, partially furnished, $650 a month. The pictures looked decent, and I was desperate to leave my old life behind. I didn't ask why it was so cheap. I didn't ask why it had been listed for over a year with no takers. The house had character, I'll give it that. Faded yellow siding, warped floorboards, a creaky staircase. There was an eerie charm to it, like something from a forgotten novel. When I toured it with the property manager, I noticed the long hallway on the second floor. It ended in a single closed door. I asked what it was. Storage, the manager replied quickly, already moving toward the kitchen. It's just boarded up. Old insulation problems, mold, that sort of thing. I should have pressed further, but I didn't. The first few nights were uneventful. I unpacked, settled in, went to work, came home. I told myself the creaking was just the house adjusting to my presence. The low groans in the walls were the plumbing, the occasional knocks, the wind. But by the end of the first week, I noticed that the hallway upstairs felt wrong. I couldn't explain it. It wasn't colder, but I shivered when I got near it. The air felt thicker. My ears would pop slightly, like the pressure was off. And no matter how bright the rest of the upstairs was, the end of that hallway was always dim, like the light just didn't reach it. The door at the end remained closed, but sometimes, not all the way. I started having dreams. In them, I stood at the top of the staircase, staring down the hallway. The door would be open, revealing only darkness inside, a deep, heavy black. In the dream, I'd feel something watching me from inside that room. Something large and patient. Sometimes it breathed. Sometimes it whispered. And sometimes it said my name. Every time, I'd wake up drenched in sweat. Sometimes with nosebleeds. Once, with scratches on my forearm that I couldn't explain. I tried ignoring it. I really did. I stopped walking down that hallway. I kept my bedroom door locked. I started leaving the lights on. Then came the night the power went out. It was about 2 a.m. A thunderstorm had rolled in fast. The wind howled, rain slapped the windows, and then darkness. Every light in the house died at once. I grabbed my phone, but the battery was dead, which made no sense. I had just charged it before bed. I found the flashlight in the kitchen drawer and made my way upstairs to check on the fuse box. I should have known. When I reached the top of the stairs, the hallway was open, all of it. The door at the end stood wide, wider than I had ever seen it before. A thin trail of dust had been disturbed on the floor, as though someone or something had walked out. I aimed the flashlight down the hall. The beam flickered. I hit the side of it, and for a second, it stabilized, just long enough for me to see what was inside. The room wasn't empty. There were drawings on the walls, hundreds of them, scratched into the plaster, like a child had gone manic with a nail or piece of metal. Stick figures, eyes, twisted mouths. The word mine, repeated again and again. sometimes backward, sometimes upside down. A small iron bed sat in the corner, rusted, the mattress sunken in. On the floor were dozens of handprints. Small, dusty, perfectly formed. And then I heard the giggle. It came from right behind me. I turned fast. Nothing. I shone the light in every direction. Still nothing. But the temperature had dropped. My breath misted in front of me. And when I turned back to the room, the flashlight went out. Everything was black. Not the kind of black where your eyes adjust. This was absolute. Like being buried. I don't remember walking. I don't remember breathing. I just remember feeling something move past me. Something enormous and cold and slow. Its movement pressed against my skin, like static. When I finally stumbled backward into the hall, I slammed the door shut and pushed a nearby shelf in front of it. I sat there until morning, shivering. I called the property manager the next day. He didn't answer. I left a voicemail asking about the room. No response. I tried calling again. The number was disconnected. I decided to do some research. I went to the town library, hoping to dig into the house's history. The librarian, an older woman, seemed hesitant when I gave her the address. She asked me twice to repeat it. Then she quietly led me to a back corner and handed me a file. The house had once been foster home. In the 1970s, a woman named Margaret Kell lived there. She took in children, orphans, runaways, the unwanted. But something changed in the early 80s. Neighbors reported screams, lights flickering at odd hours, kids disappearing. Eventually, the police were called. They found the house empty, no children, no Kell. But in the upstairs storage room, they found claw marks in the walls, a mattress soaked with blood, and a message scratched into the plaster. I kept the good ones. The case went cold. The house changed hands multiple times. Most owners stayed less than a year. I didn't go home that night. I slept in my car in the grocery store parking lot. The next day, I came back only to pack. But the house didn't want me to leave. Doors slammed on their own. The lights blinked erratically. My belongings were thrown across rooms. At one point, every faucet in the house turned on by itself. And through it all, I heard that same voice, whispering, giggling, muttering nonsense in the walls. I tried to escape. I loaded everything into my car, but the battery was dead. Again, my phone? Fried. I walked to the nearest neighbor's house, a full mile down the road, and begged to use their phone. The second I told them where I lived, their eyes changed. They told me to wait. On the porch, I overheard them arguing. Something about not getting involved again. Eventually, they let me call a tow truck. I left the next morning. I've moved 6 times since then. I don't use my real name anymore. I don't keep electronics in my bedroom. I've never stayed in a house with a second floor again. But it still finds me. Sometimes it's a door that won't stay closed. Sometimes it's a giggle I hear at night. A reflection in the window that doesn't match. Last week, I found drawings scratched into the drywall behind my bed. Stick figures. Eyes. The word M-I-N-E. Dot. The house was never haunted. I was. Thanks for watching Cryptic Chronicles. If you love eerie stories and creepy tales, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. See you in the next one.